Here we go, kids. It's time to talk about the upcoming project for this week. And obviously, we're going to go over this pretty much daily in Zoom as well. But I wanted to go over that with you here so that we can have a good recording of it and have it posted so you can refer back to it very often. Obviously, we are in week number 2. Here are our dates. You can go into the remote learning slides that tells you, again, what we're doing every day. But we're looking ahead at the things that we're going to be doing this week. Well, number one, you have this PDF here. And the funny thing is people kept trying to turn this in last week. You do not have to turn this in. This is for your practice. Now, you are welcome to copy and paste this and put it into a Google Doc and practice it on your own. If you share it with me, I'm completely fine with that. But it's not something I'm going to have you turn in. So I know a lot of parents have asked me about that. This Ecosystems 2 is a study guide for you and you alone. I will only start making you turn this in if you're one of those kids that consistently fails the vocabulary quizzes week after week after week, proving that you're not studying and working along in class. Then I'll make you turn this in. But I usually have pretty high grades on my Ecosystems quizzes. Now, down here I have 4 things. Obviously, I think the first thing you would want to click on is the rubric because, well, that tells you what you're supposed to have on your slide project that's due at the end of the week. So if I click on this, I can look in at my rubric. Now, as I go through this, Interactions in Ecosystem, this used to be a book that we would make in class, like a flip book, but obviously we can't do that, so we're going to do it online this year. So I had to change a few things in here. So first off, it says, follow this rubric. Be sure to complete. Now, under biotic factor. Okay, so you need to have a slide about biotic factors. You need to have a picture of biotic factor. You need to have a description of biotic factor, and here's the points that that's worth. You also need to have the definition of biotic factor. So I know that somewhere I need to have a page in my Google Slides with a picture, a description, and a definition of biotic factor. So I come back here and I realize, well, Mr. Bullens, I've got to turn in 3 projects. Hold on. No. You have 3 choices of Google Slides to choose from. You have this first one that I created for you, and it's, I'll be honest with you, I created this one more for the girls, but if a guy uses it, it's not a big deal. It's got a bunch of sticky notes and little stars. It looks like a notebook that like some of my girls would have turned in. I can definitely see some of my students from the past creating something similar to this. I know Parker would have turned something in last year with something very similar to this on it, and I can imagine her turning that in. But you don't have to choose this one. There's another one down here that looks like those marbled notebooks that we've had in class forever with the lined paper on the inside. And then over here I actually have a blank one. I don't care which one you pick. I care that you follow the rubric that we looked at and that you do that for each and every slide. Now, I will be honest with you, the good thing about picking one of these 2, you'll notice that I've kind of already set up a little mini template for you. Obviously, here's would be where you would want to title your presentation. That's popping up. And so you can put that here. And obviously, look, I've already got it kind of ready to go here. So you can put notes here. You can put notes here. You could add your picture down here if you wanted to. That's up to you. You could add the picture up here. So if I go back and I look at my rubric, I realize that I have to have a picture of a biotic factor. I have to have the definition of biotic factor. So I'm going to go back and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and knock that out. Biotic factor. Whoops. Mr. Bullens can type and do this at the same time. Now I know I can use my notes. You can hear those. I have them out, my notes. And I can look at that. I can go back if I need to and look at the old Nearpod slides if I needed to. I could even go back to last week's assignment and pull up the digital copy of the notes. And I look and I know that a biotic factor is a living part of an ecosystem. Okay, so number 1, I look at my rubric. I have the definition. So what do I need now? A picture of biotic factor. Well, now that's a little tough, right? I mean, if you just go into Google, and let me do that real quick here. If I just go to Google and I type in biotic factor, right, and I hit images, well, holy cow. I mean, you don't want this because it gives a little bit of everything, right? This is not bad, right? Now, we will dig into this later on, but I do want to run over this really quickly. It's not okay just to drag and drop things all the time. At some point, we've got to talk about copyrights and things of that nature. Now, there's one way to really get over that hump very quickly. If you go to Tools, right, and you see how it pops this little button down here up, and if I go to Tools and I click Usage Rights, this is not filtered by license. However, if I click this button labeled for reuse, that means I'm able to reuse them. They're in there and I'm able to use them. Now you'll notice it took a lot of my pictures out. This is extremely important when you get into college, so that you're not reusing things. So labeled for non-commercial reuse and modification. I can look at labeled for non-commercial, and obviously we're a classroom, we're not commercial reuse. And I can look around in here and I could find what I think is the best example of biotic factors. Now, for me, once I get to this and I realize, you know, hey, Mr. Bullen's like, when I click on here, I see some really good pictures, right? But when you change the tools and you go to, you know, changing things around, I noticed that I lose some of those nicer pictures. You may have to put in more than one picture. So I can come under here, and still the same thing. But I know that it's a living part of the ecosystem, right? So I mean, this picture, if I look at it, bacteria, a bee, a tree are all biotic components. They're all alive. Now here's a really cool trick, and we talked about this in some classes, and some classes we didn't, right? So here's my thing, right? If I take this and I pick it up, and I know you know how to do that. If I touch the window and I come back here, look, I can just drag it and drop it. And I can size it to whatever I need to. And so therefore, if I went back to my rubric, I have now added a picture. Now don't forget this portion, the description. Okay, the description is a little bit more, it's more, oops, I spelled that wrong, didn't I? It's a little different. Now, you can use this part, you can use this. I might come over here, I might have to change my font size a little bit to fit everything I want to say in here, and that's fine. Biotic factors are the living things in an ecosystem, such as animals and plants. So actually, you know what? Let me do this. Honestly, animals, microscopic organisms, and plants. Mr. Bullens cannot spell this morning at all. And plants. Now, I go back and I look at my rubric. But do I have a picture of biotic factor? Yes. Did I write a description? Yes. Do I have the definition of biotic factor? Yes. Could I then move on to the next slide? The answer to that is yes. Now, of course, you may add more. Maybe you're thinking, Mr. Bull, this is actually kind of a hideous picture. I really don't like that. Okay, fine. Then you go back in here and you pick your favorite animal, right? So maybe it's the flying squirrel. Flying squirrel, remember, I'm already in labeled for use. So I find one of these flying squirrels that I really like. So maybe it's this picture, and I want to talk about animals. Ooh, I actually kind of like this one even better. So maybe I take this and I drag it in. Right? I've got a flying squirrel. Well, I know I said animals. I said plants. So maybe I come back in here and I say forest plants. Okay. And I look around. I like these ferns, and you'll understand why I like those later, but we'll come back to that. So you can pick any of these plants. That's actually a really pretty picture. Let's see. I actually kind of like this. This makes me want to go hiking. So I drag this back over. And I drag it in here. So I've got animals, plants, and now I need microscopic organisms. Microscopic organisms. And so I can look around here. Ooh, I actually kind of like that a lot. That looks like something we would see if we were able to get a microscope and look under it at pond water. So I'm going to drag that. And I drop the microscopic organisms picture in here. And I've added even more pictures. Now look, now all of a sudden my ecosystem, my biotic factors page is even better. And of course that's what you want to do. You don't want to just do the bare minimum. I talked to a kid last night at our youth group about that. He's like, if the teacher says 10 sentences, all I give him is 10 sentences. That's fantastic, but I'm hoping those 10 sentences are great, because when you take the time to add a little bit extra, sometimes it helps you out because maybe you missed something. Maybe this wasn't the correct picture. But then if you added the correct pictures down here, you get way less taken off. I think this is a very easy thing to do. Now, obviously, do you have to use this one? No, you don't have to use this one. I mean, you can use, I'm going to take all this off. I don't want to go in and add a bunch of stuff to yours. Let's go back and make it. Go back to the original format of that. There we go, and good. Everything's back to the way it was. I don't have to use that one. I can click on this one and I can do the exact same thing. Okay, title, name, first page. What do you have? Biotic factor. Notes can go here. Pictures can go over here. Again, it's set up for you. Mr. Bullens, I don't like either one of those projects. They're boring. Okay, fine. Click on the blank slide and throw down and do it by yourself. I'm okay with any of those. I'm just trying to help some people out because I know some people spend way too much time trying to get their slides to look very fancy. And although that does make the slides better, in my opinion, I don't want you spending an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours messing around trying to get all these cool backgrounds and stuff when I can throw it on there really quickly for you. And you're welcome to choose this one. You're welcome to choose this one. And if you don't like the two I picked for you, choose this one. I'm not going to get mad at you. I hope that answers it. Obviously, I'm going to go over this every single day in Zoom. And we're probably going to do one together and then move on. And I will see some of you here in about 10 minutes online.